So I would like to start by thanking Professor Unal and TASSA for the opportunity to speak with all of you today at this very impressive high-level conference. I've really enjoyed being part of this. I don't want to take any more of your time. I know there's been a lot to digest, but I want to talk to you about something that hasn't been addressed a whole lot here yet today, or in this conference. First of all, I want to start by saying I think it's clear from the many remarks that we've heard both yesterday and today that we all agree that none of the advances that we hope to make in the future will be possible without a highly skilled, educated workforce. And I want to, a couple of times yesterday, President Obama's Cairo speech in 2009 was mentioned, but I want to pull out a particular quote that's important to me when he said, "Our daughters can contribute just as much to society as our sons." Now, we know that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, or STEM education, forms the backbone of a knowledge-based economy, which is clearly the direction of the 21st century economic growth, and I know the goal of Turkey as it looks to become a top 10 economy by 2023. And with March as Women's History Month, and International Women's Day is next weekend, I want to urge you all to recognize that, as noted in the Chinese proverb, women hold up half the sky. And I think it's important to note that if we do not equally include and prepare the world's women and girls with a high-quality education in science, we're doing a disservice to all men and women, as we may very well miss some of those solutions to some of the major challenges that the global community faces today and in the future. And economic growth as well is likely to suffer. None of us know where that next great idea is going to come from. It may very well just come from a girl. And it's on that note that I would like to talk to you all today about an initiative that was launched by Secretary Clinton on December 10th, Nobel Prize Day, at an event celebrating women in science. This was held by the New York Academy of Sciences in honor of the 100th anniversary of Marie Curie's second Nobel Prize in Science. And Marie Curie was the first scientist, not just the first female scientist, the first scientist to ever win 2 Nobel Prizes. So the initiative that the Secretary announced is called the NeXXt Scholars, and that is NeXXt. Double X is for the double X chromosomes of women. And the idea is to prepare the next generation of women leaders in science, engineering, and innovation. The NeXXt Scholars Initiative seeks to expand opportunities for young women from 47 Muslim-majority countries and territories to obtain a world-class undergraduate education in science, technology, engineering, and math in the United States by partnering with 37 women's colleges that focus on developing women leaders in the sciences. And in addition, women's colleges offer an all-female living environment that may be more culturally acceptable to some of the female student families in the regions. So the NeXXt Scholars Partnership between the US government and the US women's colleges provides an empowering educational environment as well as STEM enrichment activities through the New York Academy of Sciences to prepare these young women for careers in research and development and innovation. So the US higher education system is well regarded around the world, especially in the sciences, where there is a focus on hands-on, inquiry-based learning, which as we've heard throughout this conference, the importance of that inquiry-based learning model. This is an essential component of preparing for successful scientific and engineering careers, and to have that at the undergraduate level is really important. Well, across the Muslim-majority countries, less than 20% of the students studying for undergraduate STEM degrees in the United States are women. So clearly, there are more sons than daughters accessing a US STEM education. The figures for Turkey are slightly more encouraging at 27% female, but there's still a need for increasing the number of women accessing that opportunity of getting a US STEM education. So many people, both here and at home and abroad, do not realize that we have nearly 50 women's colleges in the United States. And by informing more people of this incredible opportunity to earn an undergraduate STEM degree at US women's colleges, we hope to reach an underserved population of women whose families want them to succeed and have opportunities to do well, but have some cultural sensitivities and may not quite be comfortable sending them to live in our co-educational environments. So U.S. women's colleges provide a unique environment where everything is focused on women's education. And this is where, for the first time in many young women's lives, they are not first someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's caretaker. It's all about her and about her opportunity and potential to succeed. And this is a very empowering environment and atmosphere to get an education in. U.S. women's colleges also graduate women in the science and math fields at 1.5 to 2 times the rate of coeducational institutions. So it's a great place to get a STEM education. In addition, women's colleges are natural leadership incubators because all the leadership positions on campus are held by women. Everything from student government and student opportunities, student organizations, to the research positions at the lab bench. So a multitude of leadership opportunities and leadership styles and examples are everywhere. If you want something done on campus, it's going to be done by a woman. So more importantly, for the STEM fields, there are many opportunities to do real hands-on inquiry-based learning outside of the classroom with professors as an undergraduate. And this provides women with a solid foundation and positions them well for internships, future graduate studies, and future research careers. The NeXXt Scholars Initiative also builds relationships based on mutual interest and mutual respect by connecting each international NeXXt Scholar to an American peer STEM student. Each college that matriculates an international NeXXt Scholar will nominate an entering first-year American student to be her STEM sister NeXXt Scholar. Together, they will navigate the on-campus STEM education environment, but in addition, they will both receive the STEM enrichment activities of the program, including a personal STEM mentor will be assigned to them from the New York Academy of Sciences, and they'll also receive a 5-year Academy membership to facilitate building science networks beyond just their campus communities. So we also hope to add a 2 to 3 day mentorship skill development workshop to pull together all of the international NeXXt Scholars and their American STEM sisters so that they can begin right from the beginning bonding and building immediately a larger network of support for their educational advancement and access to internships, research opportunities. And this will prepare these young women for careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, and perhaps pave the way for future collaborations internationally. So we are currently recruiting for our first cohort of NeXXt Scholars to enter in the fall of this year. And although we got a little bit of a late start because the program wasn't announced until December, we are pleased to announce that we have 40 applicants from 14 different countries. But I am sorry to report that we do not yet have any NeXXt Scholar applications from Turkey. And this is where I hope that all of you will reach back into your communities in Turkey to spread the word about the NeXXt Scholars Initiative to all of those rising high school girls who are interested in the STEM fields as an opportunity for them to pursue. I do have a one-page flyer that is out on the table out there if you're interested in learning more information about this. And on that note, I do want to keep my remarks brief, but I would like to stop here with just one more quote from Secretary Clinton that she made on International Women's Day a couple of years ago, which I think sums it up. Investing in the potential of the world's women and girls is one of the surest ways to achieve global economic progress, political stability, and greater prosperity for women and men the world over. So thank you for listening, and with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take, if there's time for a question or two.
I think we should.
Thank you.
So any questions?
Is there an internet site for more information, application process and everything other than the flyer?
Yes, well, the site is listed on the flyer. It's actually going to be coming online on Monday, but also there is an email address that you can email for any additional information. We're going to be doing the recruiting, and the nomination letters come mainly through the Education USA centers, which the State Department funds Education USA centers around the globe, which are basically college counseling centers where foreign students that are interested in studying in the US can get information about the various programs, the higher education culture in the US, and so forth. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I have a question. So it is, why sending to women's college? That's a little bit kind of bothersome. I mean, why don't send them to a regular, or all schools should be at competition? And why do you restrict it? You know, constraints always, you know, lead to infeasible solutions.
Okay.
And so why are you putting so much constraints? And then they may have other cultural problems in women's colleges that they may not have in other places. So therefore, how did you guys decide to go that way?
Yeah, actually, thank you for that question. Well, one of the reasons is because we're trying to reach here a population of women who otherwise their families might not be comfortable letting them get a high-quality U.S. hands-on inquiry-based learning experience. And if they're going to be living in an environment of women, their families may be more comfortable with letting them get that. And in many cases, that availability of that style of education is not available at home. This whole initiative is been inspired by a young woman from Egypt who applied to do her master's degree at Smith College, which is a women's college in Massachusetts. And her father thought that he was going to be able to come live with her for the 2 years while she did her master's degree. She's from a fairly conservative family, and it wasn't culturally acceptable for her as a young woman to live alone in the United States. He found out that, number one, Smith couldn't support a visa for him for 2 years, and number two, they didn't support the idea. So there were two things that gave him the courage to still allow her to come. The first was it was science, and he had a high regard for science and the U.S. higher education system, and he wanted his daughter to be able to get her U.S. degree in science. The second was that it was a women's college, so it was perceived to be a safe, comfortable environment for her to live in while she earned her degree. So that was the tipping point that gave her the opportunity to change her world. But in addition to that, there's also other benefits from this on the larger perspective. For the entire 2 years that she was attending Smith, they didn't tell anyone in her extended family that they were allowing her to do this. She earned her degree. Her mom came for her graduation. We sat in the front row, took beautiful pictures, and sent them all home with WM, where by then her father and her brothers were so proud of her and had opened up enough, they shared these photos with the entire extended family, breaking that cultural norm, no longer keeping it a secret that they'd allowed her to come and do this in the United States. And then in addition to that, they've now allowed her to come back and do her PhD at a co-ed institution. So I think there's reach back beyond just empowering the woman with the environment that's focused very much on her education, on empowering and developing those leadership skills, but it also gives reach back into the community to change mindsets about what's acceptable and appropriate for a young woman to achieve.
You know, the idea is phenomenal. I'm not debating that. I mean, the idea is phenomenal. Whoever thought about it is awesome.
Thank
I have
you.
a problem, you know, because perceptions may be different and perceptions may not come out realizations. So that's the issue. You know, it is. Maybe you may want to visit it, and then I have a daughter. She had an option to go to a women's college. She chose in a state school. She's all happy. I'm a typical Turkish family. So therefore, I don't think the people should be compartmentalized, give them options, and then say that there is an option for women's schools too. So
right, and that's kind of what it is. It's about making it known that we do have this option. Many places, people don't have any idea that we have this option. And to be perfectly honest, most women don't go to a women's college saying, oh, I want to go study in a women's college environment, right? Most of us, including myself, I'm a women's college alum, full disclosure. Most of us are a little reluctant and concerned about that as well. But I will tell you that the majority of women that get there, when they get on campus, they get it.
Yeah.
It has an ethos and an environment that's just extremely empowering. So it's not for everybody, but there are a lot of women that don't know that it's for them, and yet it is.
Yeah, question, Arda.
I certainly understand the need to have some sort of positive discrimination to compensate for all the negative discrimination that's been going on. But to just follow up the existing question, is it at this day and age wise to continue to push for any kind of segregation? I mean, if the tables were turned, would you promote having an all African American school because they didn't want their kids to mingle with the whites? Or would you promote, God forbid, an all white school because they didn't want to mingle with African Americans? I mean, isn't it more or less the same idea?
Okay, thank you for the question. We actually do have historically black colleges that are
That doesn't
predominantly.
necessarily make a good idea.
But it's an empowering environment, and so oftentimes an opportunity that otherwise isn't available. And it's about growing beyond that. When you get on campus, the diversity is still there, and all of the women's colleges have interactions and connections to some of the larger universities, so that the opportunity for interaction with the male population is there, is available to them as they choose to take it. And in many cases, the colleges are part of consortiums where there can be student cross-registration of students, so they can actually apply to, say, at Smith, for example, they can apply to UMass at Amherst or Amherst College and so forth. So there are other opportunities. But to really address your point, sometimes it's about making an opportunity available. And I do think in special cases there is a need, and it is empowering to have a separate education, and it removes a lot of distractions.
Okay, I think we should hear from some Turkish women in the audience. I mean, because we men don't know how women think. So therefore, let's start with Çiğdem.
Thank you. No, you did answer well in your presentation that the ratio of success in these science fields where girls usually do not excel or not interested in, because in high school level they don't excel as good as boys because of the competition or the pressure coming from boys. So in an environment of an all women's college, if there's an interest to start with in science education, when they are in that environment, they will clearly excel, and it's going to be a huge potential creating environment. And secondly, because it's oriented towards a Muslim Muslim world, I understand, right? Is this, am I correct?
Yes.
That's where you're encouraging?
Muslim majority countries, but it doesn't have to be a Muslim woman. So any woman from these countries.
I understand, from those countries.
Yes.
Right. So that if you were also trying to encourage the women from the Muslim environment, then
yes, indeed.
it's clear
Part of developing the mutual trust, mutual respect that also President Obama spoke about in the Cairo speech.
Any questions from that side? Yeah. Nothing? Oh, okay. Of course.
So I think there's one quote that I want to make from Atatürk. So he said, if you raise a woman, you don't only raise a family, you raise a nation. So I think he said that before Clinton said that. So he was well aware even at that time.
Yes.
So I think Turkey is very different from other Muslim-oriented or majority Muslim whatever countries. So I think Turkish women a bit different in our understanding, in our perception, in our vision. We can actually, I think, would be great leaders in that environment or in that area that you are interested in. Because I don't agree that women are not as successful as men. I think they just let men to be successful. The moment the woman wants to be successful, watch out.
Yes.
Exactly.
I completely agree.
Yes, so we just need to decide how successful we really want women to be.
Right.
And that's why maybe it was more made men and questions in our,
Yes, and I will add to that in an environment of all women and empowering women's education, women are driven to be very successful, and it takes away the other distraction factors. And in her focus at this really fundamental stage when she's laying down the very foundation of her education, and which is really an important time, especially if she's going to go into science to get research experience and whatnot, she's very focused on being driven in that direction. So it's really, again, just an incredibly empowering environment to have it take place. And I also want to add to your other point, there's also been studies done in addition to when you educate a woman, it's been shown that that's the #1 indicator for a male or female child in a classroom in Egypt. The #1 indicator as to whether or not that child is going to have an opportunity to get a higher education themselves is whether or not the mother has a higher education. So by educating women, we're also educating future generations.
There's no doubt about that. We all agree. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.